So we are Group 11 and we are here to talk about some concepts of critical thinking. Critical thinking is a field of study that seeks to help us understand our day-to-day activities by way of understanding what it means to be precise, what it means to analyze arguments very well, to make corrective judgments. Critical thinking has various aspects that talks about ambiguity, vagueness, truth, and also basic logic. This helps us to understand legal documents and even to understand the manuals that we read and not run into hasty conclusions. My group members will be talking about all these various aspects of critical thinking.
I'm talking about definitions. Definitions are used to clarify or bring understanding to terms. A typical definition has two parts, definindum and definere. Definindum is the term, whilst definere are the words that are used to explain the term. We have different types of definitions. We have a reportive definition, stipulative definition, then precising definition. Precising definition brings clarity to a definition. For example, Homo sapiens. Wherever that you are, if you mention this term, anybody that is related to this will understand. It will not change, no matter the geographical location. Then you have criteria for a good definition. The criteria is that a definition should avoid obscurity. It should avoid circularity. It should use intentional definitions if possible. And the intentional definitions, you can have the extension and intention. Then extension is the umbrella name, for example, beverages. Then when it comes to the intention breaks the umbrella name to different components. So when we talk about beverages, we have Milo, milk, and among others. Then you have techniques for definition. Definition. The criteria is that a definition should avoid obscurity. It should avoid circularity. It should use intentional definitions if possible. And the intentional definitions, you can have the extension and intention. Then extension is the umbrella name, for example, beverages. Then when it comes to the intention breaks the umbrella name to different components. So when we talk about beverages, we have Milo, milk, and among others. Then you have techniques for definition. Definition by synonyms, where two words are used, has the same meaning, for example, small or little. Then definition by ostension. Then definition by genus differentia, for example, the Homo sapien that I talked about. Then we have three misconceptions about definition. One, when one sees the meaning of a definition in a dictionary, the person thinks that once the meaning is in the dictionary, it is correct, but that is a misconception. Then another one, to have every definition should have a meaning. Otherwise, we will lose some jokes, we will lose poems, and even our conversations. Then a definition should have its original meaning. It will have its original meaning. That makes it a definition, but that is a misconception. So definitions help us to understand terms properly.
Okay, so talking on ambiguity and vagueness. So with the ambiguity, it falls under linguistic pitfalls. And when we talk about linguistic pitfalls, we are talking about the language. When you use a language that is not accurate and effective in communication. And under linguistic pitfalls, we can talk about unclear, statements, or empty statements, or distorted statements. So under the unclear statement, that's where we have the ambiguity. Now, ambiguity can be defined as any expression that has more than one meaning. And then you can also categorize the ambiguity into several types. So the type 1 is lexical ambiguity. And lexical ambiguity is a statement that expresses more than one meaning. And an example is when you use a word like party. So a party can be like a party as a political party, or going to a place to have fun as in going for a party. So then it means that party is lexically ambiguous. Or you can use an example like present. You can say that you are present for a meeting. So the present, that one is there. And then you can use present as a gift, like you give a present to somebody. So present is also can be used as a lexically ambiguous word. Then we can also talk about referential ambiguity. That's when the context does not make it clear what a pronoun is referring to. So in that case, we can use an example as Kofi. Kofi and Kwame made the mistake, then he corrected it. So the he there is the pronoun, and the he doesn't specify whether it's qualifying Kofi or Kwame. So it makes the statement ambiguous. And then we can also talk of syntactic ambiguity. So when there is more than one way to interpret a grammatical structure, then that is when a syntactic ambiguity comes in. Like example is flying planes can be dangerous. So you cannot be sure whether actually flying the plane, as the individual flying the plane, is what makes it dangerous, or the planes that are flying in the sky that are dangerous. So that makes it ambiguous. Then we can talk about vagueness now. And when we talk of vagueness, we're talking about an expression that has no boundaries. So it means that when you use an example like the meat I bought was small, and you don't really know how to quantify the small, so it's better to say that maybe the meat weighs 20 kilograms, and that will give a better description or meaning to what you are saying, rather than just using small, because small doesn't have boundaries. And then we talk about use and mention. So a word can be used and also a word can be mentioned. There's a difference between using a word and mentioning it. So when you use the word cheese as an example, so in a sentence like okay, so I'll talk about use and mention now. We use and mention. There's a way in which you can use a word or you can just mention the word. And to explain that, we use the sentence cheese is derived from milk, and cheese is derived from an Old English word, cheese. Now, in the first sentence, cheese is derived from milk. It's making reference to milk, but the emphasis is not really on the cheese. We are using the word cheese and making emphasis on the milk. But when you say cheese is derived from the Old English word cheese, actually you're making mention of the word cheese, and you're not making reference to anything else. And all the focus is on the cheese. So there's a difference between use and mention of a word. So we continue from there and talk about vagueness. Now, when we talk about vagueness, that is when a statement expresses incomplete boundaries or imprecise boundaries. So, for example, use the word that, or a sentence like the meat is small. So when you say that the meat is small, you will give it too much space for anyone to assume whatever they want in their mind, because small is difficult to quantify. So it's better to say that maybe the meat is 20 kilograms in weight, rather than those statements are possible. We can say that they are consistent. And when they say we say it's inconsistent, it means that let's use an example like Kofi is a boy and Kofi is a girl. And we know that every individual can be either a male or a female. You cannot be both. So it's either you are a boy or a girl. So when you say Kofi is a boy and Kofi is a girl, it means that it is inconsistent. Or you make a statement like everybody failed chemistry, only one person had an A. So it is not consistent, because if everyone failed, how did one person get an A? So that is also an inconsistent statement. So these are what inconsistency refers to. Then we move to logical equivalence. So with logical equivalence, we define like if P entails Q and Q entails P, then they are logically equivalent. So let's use this example. Like Adam is taller than Ajua. It's equivalent to Ajua is shorter than Adam. So those two sentences are different, but they are equivalent. As in, it is not possible for one to be true and the other to be false. So as long as I'm taller than another person, that person is automatically shorter than me. And so those statements can be referred to as logically equivalent. Analyzing what you are saying. So we move from there and talk about consistency and inconsistency. Now we see that some statements can be said to be consistent when all the statements are possible to be true in one situation. So when all the statements are possible to be true in one situation, we can say that the statements are consistent, but either if they are not possible to be true, then they are inconsistent. So you can use something like two sentences like Accra is in Ghana and nobody lives in Accra. You know, it doesn't really matter whether the statements are true or false. As long as they are possible to be true, they are consistent. So Accra is in Ghana. It's a true statement. Nobody lives in Accra is false. Yet it is possible that Accra is in Ghana, and it is also possible that for some reason nobody lives in Accra. So as long as those possibilities are, those statements are possible, we can say that they are consistent. And when they say we say it's inconsistent, it means that let's use an example like Kofi is a boy and Kofi is a girl, and we know that every individual can be either a male or a female. You cannot be both. So it's either you are a boy or a girl. So when you say Kofi is a boy and Kofi is a girl, it means that it is inconsistent. Or you make a statement like everybody failed chemistry, only one person had an A. So it is not.
Necessary truth and necessary falsehood. Necessary truth simply means it has to be true in every word. It deals with facts and accuracy. For example, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. But one cannot say 2 plus 2 is equal to 6. This is correct in logical sense. Again, a dog is an animal. Yes, a dog cannot be a human being, so it's a necessary truth. Necessary falsehood is obviously the opposite of necessary truth, meaning it has to be wrong in every sense. It is very self-contradictory. For instance, saying Sam is married bachelor, it's contradictory. For instance, saying Sam is a married bachelor is contradictory, because how can Sam be a married man and also be a bachelor? In the case of contingent truth and contingent falsehood, a contingent truth is a proposition that could have been false, and a contingent falsehood is a proposition that could be true. With all these concepts of critical thinking explained, you can be sure to speak without mistakes and think thoroughly through the decisions that we have laid down for you. Thank you very much. This is Group 11.